EVS Notes. Chapter 3 Natural Resources, Renewable and Non-Renewable. Long answer questions. 1. Discuss the meaning, types, and reasons for changes in land usage. Meaning. Land use change can be defined as a process where anthropogenic activities transform the natural landscape of a region. The changes often result in natural habitat destruction, environmental stress, and endanger the lives of humans and other living organisms. Types. The land use change can be broadly categorized into two types. Direct land use change refers to land use change occurring due to anthropogenic activities, for example, a forest land being converted into a crop field for food production. Indirect land use change refers to change in land use in one location which is partially connected to a simultaneous change in land use in a different location. A reduction in crop production in a particular area with decreased land area will trigger market incentives in the adjoining areas. Thus, reduction in agricultural yield and food production in one region can indirectly trigger cultivation to start up in another area, thus resulting in indirect land use change. This effect often leads to migration and shifting agriculture, which are indirectly responsible as reasons of land use change. Reasons. There may be various reasons which are attributed to the change in land use, which include population pressure, increase in annual population and growth rate results in decreased availability of per capita land. Thus, land is often converted from agricultural fields to other non-productive purposes like habitation and settlement. There are also instances of extensive fragmentation of crop fields followed by heavy fertilization and cultivation. Erosion and coastal land degradation. There are possibilities of continuous degradation of land in coastal regions resulting due to erosion, saline intrusion, waterlogging, inundation, and other natural disasters. Land degradation results in reduction of agricultural land, thus causing land use change. Changes in socio-economic condition, rapid diversification of the economy and society in an area results from globalization. Societal changes are manifested by land use changes. Land acquisition and extensive industrialization decreases crop field areas. Various public and private developmental projects in society have had an important impact on the patterns of land use. 2. Critically evaluate the Chipko Indian movement and its impact. Chipko movement, also called Chipko Andolan, non-violent social and ecological movement by rural villagers, particularly women, in India in the 1970s aimed at protecting trees and forests slated for government-backed logging. The movement originated in the Himalayan region of Uttarakhand, then part of Uttar Pradesh, in 1973 and quickly spread throughout the Indian Himalayas. The Hindi word Chipko means to hug or to cling to and reflects the demonstrators' primary tactic of embracing trees to impede loggers. The Chipko movement thus began to emerge as a peasant and women's movement for forest rights, though the various protests were largely decentralized and autonomous. In addition to the characteristic tree hugging, Chipko protesters utilized a number of other techniques grounded in Mahatma Gandhi's concept of satyagraha, non-violent resistance. For example, Bahuguna famously fasted for 2 weeks in 1974 to protest forest policy. In 1978, in the Advani forest in the Tehri Garhwal district, Chipko activist Dhoom Singh Negi fasted to protest the auctioning of the forest, while local women tied sacred threads around the trees and read from the Bhagavad Gita. In other areas, pines, Pinus roxburghi, that had been tapped for resin were bandaged to protest their exploitation. In Pulna village in the Bhundar Valley in 1978, the women confiscated the loggers' tools and left receipts for them to be claimed if they withdrew from the forest. It is estimated that between 1972 and 1979, more than 150 villages were involved with the Chipko movement, resulting in 12 major protests and many minor confrontations in Uttarakhand. The movement's major success came in 1980, when an appeal from Bahuguna to Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi resulted in a 15-year ban on commercial felling in the Uttarakhand Himalayas. Similar bans were enacted in Himachal Pradesh and the former Uttaranchal. Lasting impacts. As the movement continued, protests became more project-oriented and expanded to include the entire ecology of the region, ultimately becoming the Save Himalaya movement. Between 1981 and 1983, Bahuguna marched 5,000 kilometers, 3,100 miles, across the Himalayas to bring the movement to prominence. Throughout the 1980s, many protests were focused on the Tehri Dam on the Bhagirathi River and various mining operations, resulting in the closure of at least one limestone quarry. Similarly, a massive reforestation effort led to the planting of more than 1 million trees in the region. In 2004, Chipko protests resumed in response to the lifting of the logging ban in Himachal Pradesh but were unsuccessful in its reenactment. Explain the causes and impact of mining with the help of case study. Mining is a major cause of deforestation and loss of genetic diversity worldwide. The impacts of mining includes various events of soil erosion, loss of biodiversity, and contamination of soil and groundwater. Mining involves the extraction of coal, precious metals and gemstones such as manganese, tantalum, cassiterite, copper, tin, iron, etc. Mining often has deleterious effects that degrades the ecosystem and hampers livelihood. Deforestation and chemical pollution arising from mining possesses serious impact to rainforests and biodiversity-rich areas. It can also affect aquatic habitats. Reduction in the water flow resulting from deforestation exerts serious impacts on aquatic life. Destruction caused due to deforestation results in loss of biodiversity and hampers ecosystem services like timber, plant products, food, etc. Excessive construction of mines in mineral-rich areas result in land capture and deforestation. This also induces weakening of surface strength and also causes landslides. Deforestation due to mining results in serious loss in the livelihood of tribal communities. India's most important rainforest lies in Assam and is popularly called the Dihing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuary. This area has extensively suffered from mining-associated deforestation and loss of natural habitat. The Dihing Patkai, which is located in the eastern region of Assam, harbors various local communities, namely the Khamti, Singpho, Sema Nagas, Tangsa, Tafek, Siam, Atom, and Nokte. These tribal communities have greatly suffered from the loss of their traditional lands which were occupied or afforested due to mining. Thus, deforestation has resulted in higher reduction in the ecosystem services among the tribal communities. Various tribal communities from this region of Assam have migrated to parts of Arunachal Pradesh. Discuss how water is used and overexploited. Water is used by humans in the two following ways. Water withdrawal. This involves taking water from groundwater or surface water resource. Water consumption. Here, the water which is taken up is not returned for reuse. Overexploitation of water. Although water is very abundant on earth, yet it is very precious. Out of the total water reserves of the world, about 97% is salt water, marine, and only 3% is fresh water. Even this small fraction of fresh water is not available to us. Most of it is locked up in the polar ice caps, and just 0.003% is readily available to us in the form of groundwater and surface water. Overuse of groundwater for drinking, irrigation, and domestic purposes has resulted in rapid depletion of groundwater in various regions, leading to lowering of water table and drying of wells. Pollution of many of the groundwater aquifers has resulted in making these wells unfit for consumption. Rivers and streams have long been used for discharging of wastes. Most of the civilizations have grown and flourished on the banks of rivers, but unfortunately, growth in turn has been responsible for pollution of the rivers. Describe the availability and usage of various alternate energy resources. Renewable energy resources must be preferred over the non-renewable resources. This will seek to end the energy crisis which the world is facing today. It is inevitable truth that now there is an urgent need of thinking in terms of alternative sources of energy, which are also termed as non-conventional energy sources. These include solar energy, wind energy, hydropower, tidal energy, ocean thermal energy, geothermal energy, biomass, biogas, biofuels. The non-renewable energy sources include coal, petroleum, natural gas, and nuclear energy. The rate of energy consumption today is considered as barometer of civilization. The energy consumption is also linked with socio-economic development. The average rate of growth of energy consumption has been observed just double to average growth rate of economy from the first 5-year plan to the 7th 5-year plan. At present, the total installed capacity for power generation in India is about 48,000 megawatts, while installed capacity for hydroelectric power generation is only about 12,000 megawatts, while is only 25% of the total. Thus, a major share is contributed by thermal systems. It has been recognized that thermal generation of electricity contributes significantly to suspended particulate matters, CO2, SO2, etc. With the increasing percentage of ash and coal, the problem of suspended particulate matters, especially where a thermal power plant is located in the heart of city, is turning severe. Evaluate the use of energy resources through case studies in India. Kasai village, biomass energy plant. In Madhya Pradesh there is a remote forest Adivasi area with 55 houses holding a population of 392 persons. However, it is not connected to the major power grid. As an alternative to electricity, the villagers use abundant biomass resources in the form of various forest products like crop wastes, cattle dung, and various oil seeds. From the year 2005, government has funded a project in this village, which aims to generate electricity with the help of a 10 kW biomass plant. The project is under the surveillance of the local tribal community and it has also obtained technical support from the Forest Department. Villagers gather plant waste for biomass generation and each household is paid an amount of 120 a month to fulfill operating and maintenance expenditures. Gosaba Island in West Bengal, biomass-generated electricity. Socio-economic development in this area has been deprived due to the lack of electricity. The island is isolated from the main city and is located in a deep interior within the river. Diesel-based generator-sourced electricity was known to be present in few houses situated around the marketplace. The customers had to afford a considerable amount of cost to bear the electricity charges being generated by diesel source. The joint collaboration of the central and state government led to the installation of a biogas power plant on 20 June 1997. It implies two kinds of fuels to generate electricity via the process of gasification. The primary source of fuel is organic biomass which is collected from plant parts and other organic matter. 70%. The local people were involved in briefings and campaigning on the various beneficial aspects of the project to the village dwellers. Public meetings were held and the panchayat members were taught the advantages of this source of energy power being harnessed from the plant. The biomass-based biogas fuel was harmless in comparison with the toxic fumes of the generator. Currently, the plant supervised by the local management committee under the name Gosaba Rural Energy Cooperative. This body was authorized by the West Bengal Renewable Energy Development Agency (WBREDA) in the year 1996. The function of the cooperative is to set the tariff, advise WBREDA for the distribution of the power lines, and collect power bills from the houses. For harnessing the biomass-sourced raw material, trees were planted on an area of 71 hectares of silty river beds. This enabled a steady supply of wood to the plant. The large biofuel plant of 500 kW provides power to 3,027 houses having a population of 18,220 members.